So here we are, a few weeks past the Bowman Chrome release, and as you've seen over a couple episodes that I've been talking about, it seemed that there was an issue that Topps was having with their superfractors coming out of Bowman Chrome, and it appears that is a rampant issue throughout that product. And Topps actually came out, and I mean, this is it's probably sent some shockwaves through kind of the QCing and through probably people within the organization. To be completely honest, it's really unfortunate what happened. But Topps came out with a statement and said there are 95 duplicate one of ones in Bowman Chrome, and that includes a lot of the top stars. And that includes, like I said, a lot of big players getting their first Bowman. They have multiple superfractors. And what they did essentially was they created a buyback program for whoever the first person was to pull the card and sent in the card to Topps. They would receive, a sum of money. I think some of the reports was that it was around $500,000 in total that they were going to be doing for these buybacks. I'm actually going to pull up a tweet right now just to make sure I have that number correct. Yeah, so some of the big stars include 25,000 for Manea's first, and then Salas, who I think is the Giants player, his was going for $75,000, which I think is very interesting. Okay, so announced $650,000 plus in buybacks, rebuy the duplicate one of ones. So I'm not sure if this exactly works when if both people send it out. I would imagine that can't be both. It wouldn't be both. Like, there's no reason for it really to be both. But it is also interesting that Topps, I think the most interesting thing coming out of this is that this is one of the first times we've seen a card company come out and say, this is what the value of this card should be. $75,000 for a first Bowman superfractor obviously isn't a small chunk of change for Topps to be giving out. And I just wonder, I almost look at this and I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have on the other card that ends up selling. And I do also wonder, if there's going to be changes in this, if there's going to be, if a player, hypothetically, that gets their first Bowman, maybe, I would imagine all the first Bowmans are probably priced higher than the non-first Bowmans. But, if a player goes on to have, a crazy career, is it going to change the price? Which I guess actually, too, that wouldn't really, if a player's going on, the person, I would imagine, because, we wouldn't know a player is going to be good for another 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I would imagine that the card's buyback would have already been fulfilled, if I had to guess. Now, what happens to these cards on the open market is sort of my other question here. Like I said, the Manea, does that $75,000 that Topps put the price on, does that mean that the other card is then worth $75,000? I guess that's kind of an interesting question, and we won't really know until we see some of these other cards sell. And we did already have an issue where, let me see, it was on eBay, so it was the Reyna Arrayas. Oh no, so he's the guy on the Giants. So his first Bowman Superfractor sold on eBay for $1,500. And literally the next day, Topps came out and said, actually that card's worth $25,000. I think that saga's really gonna I mean, this is sort of the weird thing. It's one of the nuances of the solution here. I think that this is probably the best solution that Topps could have came up with. They're giving back money to the collectors. They're giving back money to people who have pulled the cards. Now, what are they going to do if both people put in the card right away? And, I would imagine they have to, no matter what, say whoever is the first person to contact Topps with this info is the one that's going to be getting paid out. I would imagine that has to be the solution here. There's no way that they could, I don't know. I don't think they would do this. There's no reason for them to get into any more type of scandal like they already have with this product. But like I said, also credit to Topps here because this is like I said, this was a $600,000 mistake. Now with sports cards and stuff nowadays, like they probably this is the $600,000 that they have to spend on all of these cards is probably chump change for that product. Like especially because Bowman Chrome is like the biggest product, so like the margins that they're getting on Bowman Chrome are probably pretty high. Like the amount of this product that they sold, like I don't know off the top of my head how many cases they would have to sell for the 600,000, but if I had to guess, I mean realistically, like if you're Topps, that's probably, I don't know, I'm sort of making this number up, but maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. Maybe you can, if somebody knows the number a little bit better than I do, it's what 5% of what Topps made on Bowman Chrome they have to reimburse, like, so it's not like a huge number in the grand scheme of things for Topps. The $75,000 for a card is actually pretty insane, though. Like, if you really think about it, like, for that solace first Bowman 1/1 Superfractor, to say that it's worth $75,000, like, I wonder, like I said, does that make the other card worth more than $75,000, or, like, does it make it less because, it's we know technically that it's, that there was this issue with this card. And then the other thing that the only issue that I really have with this program is that, like, what about the people that don't have social media? Like, what about the people, like, what's going to happen to, like, not all, and this goes back to the point of, that I made on a previous episode about the Victor Wembanyama redemptions. Not all, and it's the same for this, but it's a little bit different. But like I said, with the Victor Wembanyama, not all 99 green autographs are going to be redeemed ever. Like it's just I would say the chances of that happening are slim to none. That all 99 of these redemptions are going to be given out. Same with this buyback program. Like all 95 of these cards are not going to be. They're not going to be redeemed. Like they're not going to be sent back to be bought back. Now, whether that's because they never get pulled or because people pull it and they don't know and they just either sell it or whatever. I mean, I really think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with, like, I almost think that they need to work with eBay for this product. And I think this is where Topps and Fanatics need to maybe figure out a way to work with these platforms. Like eBay, for example, this would be a perfect example. Like if someone's trying to sell the 1/1 for any of these cards, like it almost feels like there should be some sort of notification that they get. And there's really no way to do this, I think, because of how many cards are being listed every single day. But it's like if Topps could somehow work with eBay, I think it would be another good solution. If someone goes to list that card, they get a notification that says, have you looked at this article of the buyback? Like, are you, like, which granted, it could also be like like I said, this is where the logistics and the back end and the IT may not come into play here, or it may not make it work, because it's like once it's redeemed, somehow you take the message away from that player on eBay. I guess that wouldn't be super hard. Like if they're setting it up, there's got to be a way that they can figure out how to make it so the message doesn't come up. But either way, like I wonder down the road how this is going to affect the cards, and like if we will see down the road, like I don't know, maybe there's a collector that wants to buy both the Superfractors, and I don't know. I mean, that's maybe another thing that is. It's just this is a mess, and I think Topps did the best that they could to fix the mess. And I think, honestly, people that are complaining are just trying to farm engagements realistically. Like, this is such a unique scenario. At least I hope it is. And we don't know what other solutions Topps had in mind. But giving the money to people to buy back the cards, I think, is a really good solution for this debacle, unfortunately, that happened with this release. Football is in full swing. The other day, either today or yesterday, was probably some of your team's media days for basketball. MLB postseason is here as well. The teams have been finalized. That's going to be really exciting. And then we also have the NHL preseason that's starting, I think, and then NBA preseason, which actually starts in the next week or so. But What I think this means for sports cards is that I would imagine. See, the interesting thing that you would think that would happen with sports cards is like baseball would go up because it's the postseason. Now, I'm sure you'll probably find some cards that are going up, but across the board, things are probably evening out because what ends up happening is that people are focused on some of these other sports with NBA coming back. And I think that's one of actually the big things with football and why if you look at some of the big cards over the past few years, and not just kind of their decrease from the top to where they are now, unfortunately, but if you look at some of the increases and decreases in some of the top players within football, what at least I've seen on some of these cards is that like around the preseason, like right before the season starts, that's when you're seeing some of the highs of the whole entire season. Now, the Super Bowl in general. The past few years, we've also seen some like huge monumental players. You know, Mahomes, you got Brady, you got Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. I forget who the quarterback. Sam Bradford? No, not Sam Bradford. The Rams quarterback whose name off the top of my head I'm forgetting right now, and I'm sure midway through the episode I'll remember this. But like the cards that you're seeing. Now that forgetting his name is going to bother me, but I will remember it by the end of the episode, hopefully. But what I have seen, at least from some of these big cards, is the pricing of them ends up being the highest during the preseason. I think it's actually because how excited people get for the beginning of the preseason. Like, I feel like football of all the sports is really one of the sports where people are just it feels like almost every team has an opportunity to win and everybody gets excited for the football season. Baseball, I feel like is kind of similar, but I do think you do see some more increases and decreases throughout the season where, like I said, with football, you really are seeing the highs coming around the beginning of the preseason, and then once the season starts, things slow down a little bit. I do think that there is also something to say about like the fact that, you know, you look at like a Mahomes or whatever, like his prices are pretty much, I think, where they're going to be for the majority of his career at this point, because, you know, he's won Super Bowls, he's won MVPs, he's consistently one of the best players in the league. So I just don't see how Sam Bradford is the name of the Rams quarterback. Also, I just remembered it. I swear I didn't look it up, but Sam Bradford. No, not Sam Bradford. Matthew Stafford. I just said. Did I say Matthew Stafford or Sam? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Patrick Mahomes, that card, the prices are already, the Super Bowl of the MVPs, that's already baked in there. Like, you really, it's going to be a tough sell or tough buyout, or whichever way you want to look at it, for that card to really increase in value. Now, hockey, to be honest, I don't know that much about the hockey market, so I can't really say one way or the other, like when the prices are high and when they kind of dip and when you're seeing it. As most of them are, it's like the middle of the off season. I feel like is probably when things are really low. You know, the other thing with the NBA and NFL is that I think that their off seasons they're really formulated. No, formulated maybe. It's a formula. Like, they have basically to a T when things are going to happen, and when things happen, they build a lot of hype. You know, you got free agency, you got the draft, you got the schedule release, you got the start of the preseason. Like, it's the NFL does a phenomenal job. I think the NBA also does a really good job with that kind of stuff, which, you know, in some scenarios that can lead to increases in prices. I mean, if you see like a good wide receiver or you see like a good running back maybe go to a bigger team, like you may see a bit of a bump. But like with quarterbacks, if a quarterback's switching teams, that's usually a bad thing in most scenarios. Like, it's rare, you know, Jimmy G maybe is an example of it being a good thing, but it's rare, I feel like, that you see a quarterback, like Kirk Cousins may be another example, but like, I guess Matthew Stafford may be another example, and so maybe the example isn't as good as I was saying, but it feels like in most scenarios, if a quarterback is switching teams and going to a better team, it usually it can be half and half. It can be 50-50 whether that ends up panning out. With the NBA, it almost feels like it maybe is the complete opposite. Like, you look at the things that happened, and I don't think I did an episode on this, actually. But, you know, you got Damian Lillard going to play with the Milwaukee Bucks, and then you got Drew Holiday coming to my Celtics. Those are two massive trades that happened right before Media Day. If those were if those were to have happened in the offseason, I feel like there would have been like a crazy amount of buzz. But because basically, I feel like there would have been even more buzz with those trades. But because like the preseason and the media days are kind of all starting right now, sure, they are monster stories. Like the Damian Lillard trade has been like in the works for like almost his whole career. Like almost every year, it feels like Damian Lillard has been like maybe not trying to get a trade, but it feels like everyone's like, we should trade for Damian Lillard or whatever. Jrue Holiday has been rumored to come into the Celtics. Brad Stevens said that he wanted to get Jrue Holiday since he's been a coach there, which now he's like the GM president basically. But that's again, besides the point there. But I think what you're going to see now is I think you may see a little bit of leveling off when it comes to prices because during, the summer, all you have is baseball. And then, like I said, when you get to football preseason, it's like everyone is so excited for football preseason because all summer, all that we've really had was, you had this year, you had the USA basketball team flopping in the FIBA World Cup or whatever. But then you have so many people getting excited for the preseason for football that it's like that's when you start to see like some of the juice really come back into those cards because people are excited. They're excited for their players. They're excited for the rookies, especially because what ends up happening in the preseason, the rookies are getting much more playing time than the veterans. Like the rookies' second, third years they're the ones getting all of the playing time in the preseason. So they're getting more airtime. They're getting on TV more. They're getting the ball more. All of these things lead to, a little bit of a bump in these prices. But now that, like I said, basketball, it's still in the preseason. NHL is in the preseason. MLB is kind of is almost over. I think we're going to see a little bit of and this is a prediction. I don't know necessarily one way or the other. Like I said, it's just with card prices nowadays, it's almost impossible, in my opinion, to really give advice on what is going to happen with the cards because I feel like it is just so. I feel like it maybe it wasn't like this, but it felt like for a couple years, basically everything went up, and I think then with the pandemic and sports kind of closing down, that also had an effect on it because people were looking at the cards and saying, well, this guy has unlimited potential because he's not playing right now. And then, with the next season, it's like, even if they don't play well in the bubble, it's like, well, what do you expect? They're going down to Florida to play in the bubble. Like, so you almost had like 2 off seasons for the NBA where cards were just going crazy. And now things are kind of, I think coming back to normal, but, for a multitude of different reasons. I don't really even think, honestly, that's a whole nother podcast for another day of why card prices have stabilized and they've, like what has happened to the hobby over the past even 6 months to a year that has altered the market in a similar way that the market was altered when prices were going extremely high and going super crazy. So I don't know. I think we're going to see sort of maybe a leveling out of some of these card prices. Maybe it'll be a good time to buy. Maybe just keep an eye out for some players. Like, you never know with the NFL, unfortunately, there's injuries all the time, so maybe you'll have an opportunity there. But either way, it's exciting. All of these sports are coming back, and we are going to have 4 sports on, 4 of the major sports. Obviously, WNBA also I should have mentioned WNBA. They're getting close to the finals, too, so I guess that was on during the summer as well, but I think you get the point of kind of what I was trying to make. Which WNBA, that's a whole nother. Aaliyah Boston. This is maybe another conversation for another day. But Aaliyah Boston, WNBA Rookie of the Year, phenomenal, #1 pick last year. Obviously the biggest player coming out of this year's Prism, super exciting. But that's we are close to baseball, basketball, football, and hockey all being back at the same time, which is one of the best times of the year. So if you follow people like Darren Ravel or any like the business people on Twitter, you probably have seen this story. So the Charlotte Bobcats? No, they're the Hornets. They're the Hornets now. I always get confused with that team because they changed so many times, and there was also the Hornets and the Bobcats. But either way, Charlotte Hornets, they are actually partnering with somebody who is one of the biggest YouTube creators, I guess you could maybe say of all time. I mean, I don't think he's the #1 followed YouTube channel, but I know that he has like hundreds of millions of subscribers. So it's Mr. Beast. So I think that's actually a way bigger deal I think it's a big deal for cards, in my opinion, too, because I think what's going to happen here is we have seen products with the and here, and like I said, sorry, I'm a little bit scatterbrained here at the beginning of this episode because there's a couple things that I want to say. So, like the thing that happened this week with the NFL, the way that like Taylor Swift really kind of expanded the market for women within the NFL, basically, I think is something similar is going to happen with kids with basketball from this thing, and it may even translate into sports cards, to be completely honest, because I mean, I even like Mr. Beast's content. Like, I watch a lot of his videos, and they're not really, like, I think he has said on podcasts and stuff that he really isn't making, like, he's making the videos that he thinks will do well for, like, the younger demographic, or, like, the teenage demographic. I mean, I guess the Squid Game video that he did that was, like, super popular, that was probably I think that's actually one of the craziest collaborations that ended up happening. He also did an interesting video. Now, sorry, I don't mean to get into Mr. Beast lore on this episode, but there was a video that he did where he took somebody from every single age, from the age 1 to 100, and he put them in like challenges, and then like the last person won a bunch of money. It's actually a phenomenal video, and you definitely will not be able to guess who wins at the end. Now, that's not a plug or clickbait for his video, but I wouldn't have been able to guess who was going to win at the beginning of the video. I thought it would have been someone in their 20s, but it was not. But either way, so it's a good video. You should go watch. So we may see Mr. Beast patches in card products. Like we've seen, Disney, who is the Orlando Magic sponsor. We've seen Harley Davidson, who was the Milwaukee Bucks sponsor at one point. Obviously, we've seen Nike. That's a little bit different. We've seen Jordan patches, but I think that this is actually I think it's going to be interesting where Panini chooses to put these patches, because if I'm going to be honest, if they're smart, they'll put some of these Mr. Beast patches in like products that are lower value, so that way there's actually a chance, because I believe it was Eminence. It was either Eminence or Impeccable. It was like a gold product that was like super high end. Like it was almost impossible to find some of these like really nice like one of one patches that were the full patches. Now, obviously, they're going to want to split these patches up, so you're probably going to see ones that are like fourth of a patch, or like a half of a patch, or, a quarter of a patch, or fourth quarter, same thing. But I think if Panini was smart, which, I'm not going to get into that, but if they knew how to market this specific thing, I think that they could have a hit on their hand. If, I don't think that they should put these patches in like Prism or something. They should put them in like some sort of like mid-tier, like they will be in like National Treasures, I think, and they will be in those super high-end products, but I do think it would be worth it for them to put some of these patches into lower end products for kids to be able to pull a Mr. Beast patch. And it wouldn't even surprise me. It would almost doubly, I think that they could take whatever product they wanted to and put it into the stratosphere if they were to maybe partner with Mr. Beast. Now, granted, it may be one of those things where, like, if Mr. Beast pulls a Mr. Beast patch from Panini, we've seen some sketchy things kind of going on with Panini high-end boxes over the past couple of years. Who really knows? I mean, as long as, I think with stuff like that, too, that's kind of maybe a little bit of a different conversation, but I think with stuff like that, if the cards that they're giving to influencers or content creators or people, or like Michael Rubin is opening stuff, if there's a way that they can at least say, like, this is, because they know what cards, this is the thing, they know what cards are going in the boxes. They don't know necessarily, I'm putting in quotations, they don't know which boxes are going to who, or they're not deciding which boxes are going to who. They know which boxes are going to who, probably, but they don't know. And all of these things are kind of in quotations because Panini has never come out, even after all the controversies, and this was one of the things that Topps did they've done that I think they've done really well, is when they've had controversies, they've come out and they've addressed it. Panini is just like, no, we're not going to say anything, and, that I don't know, we'll see down the road what ends up happening. Like, if I'm Fanatics, part of that Panini lawsuit, I would almost want Fanatics to be like, do you give products like that to influencers or people. Like, do you know who you're giving these boxes to? I'd be interested to see this. But if they were to partner, sorry, to get back to the topic, if they were to partner with Mr. Beast on the actual product, I think that would be a good idea. And also, this is a hypothetical as well, because I'm not 100% sure. I think that these patches will be in products. I would have to imagine that all of these sponsor patches should be going into products. But if they were to partner with Mr. Beast, give him some boxes or something, or do some sort of promotion with him, they could literally take whatever product and they could make that the most popular product in half a second as soon as they announce that Mr. Beast is partnering with Panini. And there's going to be a Mr. Beast patch in the product. They could literally take that product and turn that into the hottest product on the market. Now, I think that could help them, because, if, like I said in a couple episodes before, if you go into Targets and Walmarts and stuff, there's product from all of last year still on the shelves. There's NBA products. There's Prism. There's Donruss. There's Optic. There's Select. There's Mosaic now that's coming out. Like, there's just product for all. Like, if you can, and I don't even know what they're doing with it. Like, because eventually they have to put the new product on the shelf. So I don't know what they're doing with it. I think it's a really cool idea that they have the NBA has decided to partner with Mr. Beast. I mean, it's one of the first, we've seen it with like Prime, with Logan Paul's drink. I think they partnered with I forget which, I think it was a Premier League team. I forget off the top of my head, but they were like the main sponsor. Like, I know they're the drink sponsor, but we're seeing these influencers create these products, and which Mr. Beast, so it's not technically Mr. Beast, but it's Feastables, which is like the candy bars, essentially. And that's one of Mr. Beast's companies. So, I should have prefaced that at the beginning. I don't think it really matters, because I do think the Feastables logo is basically the same as the Mr. Beast logo. So we're seeing more influencers get into the sports space and try and do these types of things. And Mr. Beast is just one of the first athletes that's really gotten into the American sports market. And I think it's going to be really cool if they can integrate this into sports cards somehow. Okay, so this is the second time that I've recorded the episode. I'm going to be completely transparent here. I already recorded the episode, but I went back and I did a little bit of research, and I found that this was a trend that potentially started last year so basically, the whole first part of the episode, the first recording of the episode, I was kind of ranting about Connor Bedard not being on the Series 1 checklist, and being like annoyed that he wasn't on the Series 1 checklist, and being annoyed that they kind of sold the product as like the number one pick is going to be in there. Now, what I went back and checked was like the first picks in the past few drafts, which products have they been included in? And the first pick from last year's 2022 draft, even though he made his debut and he made the opening day roster or opening skate, I'm not 100% sure what they call it in hockey, but the opening day roster, he did only play about half the season because of injuries, and he got suspended. And then towards the second half of the season, he had an injury that basically just kept him out for the rest of the season. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name because I have no idea how to pronounce it. But then I went back and checked 2021, the first overall pick was in Series 1. 2020, the first overall pick was in Series 1. And so it looks like that they have in the past not included the first overall pick in Series 1. Now, if last year was the first year that they did this, I think that there needs to be maybe a little bit of communication potentially from Upper Deck to say, like, this is what we're doing now. And maybe the communication is just that's what they're going to be doing. And from now on, we can just assume that the first overall pick is going to be in Series 2. It's very similar to like Bowman Draft, where the first and the third pick are in Bowman Draft of that year, and then the second pick is usually in the next year's Bowman Baseball, which comes out in, I believe, January or February. And then the first and the third pick are in Bowman Draft, which usually comes out around December. Actually, no. So then Bowman Baseball probably comes out in like April, not January, February, because December is definitely the date for Bowman Draft. So it seems like Upper Deck is kind of taking a very similar approach to this Series 1 product going forward. I don't know if this was in anticipation for Bedard. Like, they did switch the configurations in this year's Series 1. Like, they dropped the amount of cards, which just doesn't really make much sense to me, because Upper Deck has a Series 1, Series 2, and Topps, or an update, kind of similar to what Bowman and Topps does with Bowman Baseball, Bowman Chrome, and then Bowman Draft. But they dropped the configuration. They dropped the amount of cards that come in the Series 1 product from about 190, which I think it was, I may be doing the math wrong here, but I think it was 8 cards in 12 packs. Yeah, I think that's what it was. No, maybe it might have been 8 cards in 16 packs, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not sure what the total configuration of packs per cards per pack, and then how many packs. But they basically dropped it from 190 down to 150. Like I said, if this was in anticipation for Connor Bedard, which is what I suspected when I first heard the news that they were dropping the number of configurations, or the number of cards in the box, I don't really like it. If they bring the Series 2 back to what they originally did, then I guess that's good. But at the same time, it's like, if they keep it the same, I don't like that they are decreasing the amount of cards that are coming in their flagship hobby boxes. Like, I don't care who the prospect is. The amount of cards in a box should not be determined by who the prospect is. Like, it shouldn't be, it should be determined by, it should just be a standard. Like, it should just be the standard of what you always have done. Like, you should not be changing the amount of cards. You shouldn't be, and if anything, you should be increasing the amount of cards. You shouldn't be decreasing. If you want to make a change on the flagship product, increase the amount of cards that you can get. Change it around so you're getting more cards or more memorabilia or more. There should just be more. Like, these card companies, especially now that with Connor Bedard this year, it's going to be ridiculous. Series 2. So that's basically the news here, is that and I guess maybe I did mention that. Maybe I didn't at the beginning of the episode. Hopefully you're still listening to this point. But Connor Bedard is not on the Series 1 checklist. Now, Connor Bedard has been a number 1 prospect. He's been widely known as the number 1 pick for this last 2023 draft for a couple years. So, like, maybe the 2022 configuration of the first pick not being in Series 1 was decided because they were trying to sell Series 2, and they knew that what they were going to be doing in Series 2 this year, they knew that 2 years ago, so they made the change in last year's Series 1, putting that first pick in Series 2, so that way Connor Bedard would be in Series 2. It is, from a company and making money standpoint, I guess it's fairly smart. From a consumer, and then changing the configuration as well, which this is the first year. Like I said, if they keep the configuration, they don't change it back. That's just ridiculous. And it just, in my opinion, it's really just like a slap in the face to anybody who, especially hockey, like, I don't necessarily follow hockey as much, but I know that all the hockey people are like diehard hockey. Like, they only collect hockey. Like, anybody who's really into hockey is really only a hockey collector. So the fact that Upper Deck would come out and make this change is a real slap in the face to those collectors. Like, especially when Upper Deck, when you look around the industry, there has been turmoil with every single company that has kind of been in this industry when it comes to licensing, when it comes to, Topps being bought by Fanatics, when it's Fanatics suing Panini, when it's Panini suing Fanatics, when it's Wildcard suing, Wildcard suing Panini. There's all these lawsuits, and Upper Deck, all they have to do is just stay the course. Just stay the course, and that's all you have to work. Like, you come out with this product and everybody's happy with it, but they made 2 major changes in the past 2 years that, for me, it just doesn't sit right with me. Like, I get that, Top Series 1, Series 2 update, they are including the rookies throughout the year that get their their debuts, and they come in and they actually got their rookie cards. The Young Guns is a little bit different, obviously, but, like, it should be the same thing realistically for the hockey products. Like, you should just have all of the top draft picks, all of the first round picks in the Series 1 product. Like, I get that they're trying to sell the product and Series 2 is going to be good, but it's like, I just don't, there's going to be rookies that maybe in the second, third, fourth, fifth round that make their debuts, and they end up getting that Young Guns card later on. Like, I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe I get splitting up the rookies, but to make that change last year, and then this year it being Bedard, just he's going to be in Series 2, that's just, I don't know. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. And I don't know whose decision it was over at Upper Deck, but in my opinion, it's actually pretty disappointing that they made the configuration change and that they made the change to the first pick. You know, and if they've done it in the past, I guess, I don't know, because then in 2020 and 2021, they put the first pick in. So it's like, you got to decide what you want to do here. You just, you know, you got to figure it out and decide what you want to do, and, you know, take the collectors, keep them in mind when you're making these decisions. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me that they would just make these changes for one player. Like I said, the player should not determine how the product is configured. That should be pretty obvious, but I think in this scenario, maybe it isn't as obvious as we all think it is. If you love baseball and if you love Taco Bell, then this is probably something that's pretty interesting to you, I'd say. You know, we've known that the MLB has partnered with Taco Bell in the past and done the, like, steal a base, steal a taco promotion in the World Series, where, like, if a player steals a base, everybody gets a free taco, or I forget exactly what it was. But in this year's one of the Topps products, they actually came out with something called a taco fractor. Now, there was confusion about what this was. Like, no one really knew. You know, I feel like Taco Fractor, people probably figured it had something to do with Taco Bell, but you know, they did like the Sub-Zero Fractor. They've done a couple different refractors that I mean, I'm interested actually if that one's going to have a promotion similar to this. I don't really know, probably not, but either way. So it's been announced that if a player that has the Taco Fractor, now I think the Taco Fractors are numbered to 5, if I'm not mistaken. If a player steals a base in the World Series, the person with that card will be able to redeem it for what they say is a lifetime supply of Taco Bell, which is actually a $15,000 gift card to Taco Bell, which, like I was talking to some people in a group chat today, and I think my Taco Bell order is around $15 to $16, so yeah, that would be a lifetime's worth of Taco Bell for me, considering it's not like a restaurant. If it was closer, maybe I would go more often, but you know, just to be honest, it's not super close to me. Like, it's a pretty far drive to go to one, so it's kind of like a thing. Like, I almost have to make it into an event or whatever to go. So, you know, the 1,000 times that I would be able to go in my lifetime, maybe if I had a $15,000 gift card, I would go more often or whatever. But I don't know. But either way, I think it's pretty cool that. I think here's what I think about the promotion. I think the promotion is just wacky enough with just enough. I think it's a good amount of wacky with a good amount of, like, actually a cool concept that I think Topps and Fanatics did a really good job with this. And, you know, just looking at some of the other statistics with this, let me see. So Eric Whiteback actually did a pretty good write-up about this. So the Topps Taco Fractor set includes 300 cards. So there's one wild card. So the pretty much the thing is, like, if no player that has this Taco Fractor, if they don't steal a base, then the person with the wild card, which actually the interesting part about that is the wild card actually recently sold on eBay for $11,000. Now, the only problem with that is that 83 of the 300 Taco Fractors are still eligible. So, like, you know, a lot of the key players, you know, the Ronald Acuna, like, players that are probably going to be playing in the World Series, like, right now, there's 83 players out of the 300 that are still available to, you know, if they steal the base, you get a $15,000 lifetime supply of Taco Bell. And I'm just looking at, like I said, I'm looking at the tweets, so let's see, you know, the wild card, like, that's kind of the other kind of interesting part about this, is there's only 299 cards in the set, which then, like I said, there's only 83 of these players are even eligible for it, which actually with the wild card, that would mean that this promotion will will end this year. It won't be like if no one does it, it'll be, it'll go on. It's the wild card. So, if one of the 83 players steals that base, whoever has that card can redeem it for the free Taco Bell. And like I said, Topps has done some pretty cool promotions. I think this past year with a lot of their products. They did like the follow back for I think that there was a card in Topps Big League. I'm pretty sure they did like a follow back, which it's definitely for a certain audience. Like, when I was asking around about it, some people were like, it's really not that cool. But, like, if you're a kid and you pull this, like, to be able to say Mike Trout or, like, Mookie Betts or any of the players that have this, that they follow you on Instagram, obviously, or whatever social media you choose, obviously that's going to be something that you kind of, I don't know. If you're a kid and you're doing this, you're probably... You may or may not even be like, yeah, I won a contest, and that's why they follow me. You might just kind of be like, yeah, they follow me because I'm, like, so cool or whatever. I don't know. I think it would still be cool, like, if even from my perspective at my age, I'm not necessarily a kid anymore. I guess I'm maybe a kid at heart, but not from an age perspective. It's still, I think it would be kind of cool to have that, be able to say, oh, I have this card, or I don't know. If I pulled it, I might sell it or do something with it. I don't know. I forget. I think some of them were selling. I don't remember what the prices were. They sold back when Big League was first coming out. I think it was like the Adley Rushman potentially sold for like a couple $1,000s. But this was, like I said, they came out with this announcement that the Taco Fractor, this is what the Taco Fractor promotion is going to be, and I think it's a cool way that Topps is actually working with the MLB and obviously Taco Bell, that they have this promotion going. I think it's a good way that Topps is getting the players more involved in cards, like not necessarily like getting more autographs or any of these things. Like they're doing promotions that have more to do with actually what's going on the field, which is something that I feel like we haven't really seen. Like, there's obviously this is maybe a little bit of a different example, but we have the select. There's the XRCs, which are determined by the draft. So not exactly the same, but like that is determined by something that's going on outside of the product. So, like I said, we'll see if any of these 83 players, make it to the World Series, and if they do this, and I guess the cards, I'm not sure if this is a redemption that, like, expires, like, I'm wondering, it's probably the first player. It can't be all of them, so it's probably whoever the first player is. And, once we get to the World Series, we'll actually see who even has the opportunity to get this. Because I think, like I said, if no players are eligible, or if no players that are in the World Series, which I can't imagine there would be, but, like, if no players steal a base or whatever, then the wild card wins, which, the $11,000 that person bought the card for on eBay is going to turn into a $15,000 Taco Bell gift card. I'd be interested to know if that person would rather have the $11,000 or if they'd rather have the $15,000 gift card at Taco Bell. I don't know. We'll see, but it's going to be interesting to see what players make it to the World Series, and with the playoffs going on, this is, I said this in an earlier episode this week. It's one of the best times of the year for sports because all the sports are back, and we're starting one of the most exciting playoffs in all of the four major sports, in my opinion.